We're really only in week one. We only saw the escalation of these sanctions last weekend. I mean, we can see the fallout in the markets. So from a market's perspective, they definitely believe they will be successful because we've seen this huge rally in energy and commodities, industrial metals and agriculture. Now, whether this is enough to bring Vladimir Putin to heel it, it's just far too soon to say.
As you say, it's really just been over a week or so since the sanctions were introduced, but we have seen the ruble crash. Russia's stock market has tanked. What do you think is the biggest blow to Putin?
I think he won't actually be too bothered by either the ruble crash or the stock market crash. It'll really be when the foreign flows that come from energy markets, from selling energy around the world, start to bite, and they can't pay for stuff, and then we see the perhaps an uprising by the public in mass protests as their standard of living crashes. I think only then will he pause for thought. But we're dealing with an autocrat here, and as we know with autocrats, the will of the man on the street isn't uppermost in their mind on any given day.
In his State of the Union address, US President Joe Biden announced he was going after Russian oligarchs and what he called corrupt leaders. What does that actually look like?
Well, we've seen some yachts seized around the world, and I guess we're seeing asset freezes. I think the most punchy sanction actually was the freezing of the central bank of Russia's assets. I'm quite sure that most of these oligarchs don't have their money sitting in a high street bank in Europe or in the United States. It's probably in some funny little Caribbean tax haven somewhere. So really what would have hurt is the inability now of the Russian central bank to use those huge foreign reserves they have to intervene to support the currency, for example, or to prop up the stock market and to also soften the blow over the current account, which of course is effectively closed now. So we'll have to wait and see. I think really what they're trying to do is leave open the path for energy market flows to still come in, i.e. the world can still buy oil and then can still pay for it. But I think that one is already being shut down by the financial markets unilaterally, and I think that will be the next escalation that they'll be backed into.
Well, yeah, of course, we're seeing some Western institutions already starting to self-sanction, meaning they're avoiding Russia in all commercial transactions. That will hurt Russia, of course, but it could also hurt the rest of the world, right?
Yeah, look, I think a stagflationary wave is on the way, and that's where prices go up but growth goes down. So the price of the West, if you want to label it as that, waging this economic war to bring Russia to heel will be that we will have to pay more for our everyday goods, and perhaps those shortages will worsen. We're now in a giant game of blink, and it's going to be who blinks first, the West or whether it will be Vladimir Putin.
Putin has already raised the spectre of nuclear war. You've written if Russia escalates dramatically, China will drop Putin like a stone. Why do you say that?
Well, I think he may have blindsided China by not really telling them that he was actually going to invade the Ukraine, and that's left China in quite a difficult position. Yes, they want this deep partnership with Russia for their own means as well, most especially commodities and energy, but also they do a huge amount of business with the West. All that stuff that comes out of Russia gets made into things that get sent to the rest of the world as products. They also quite often say that international borders are sacrosanct and that external countries should leave meddling in internal affairs of sovereign nations alone. And obviously what Russia's doing is not consistent with that message. So I think it'll be, if push comes to shove, I think they'll know which side they're bread is buttered on, if you were to put it simply. And frankly, I mean, China needs to sell products worldwide. It doesn't have a lot of commodities or resources on its own. It's not like Russia in that respect. It needs to sell to the rest of the world.
Jeffrey Halley, what else can the West do to bring this situation under control?
from here, things get quite challenging. We saw today that we saw this fire at this nuclear plant in the Ukraine, and thankfully it's not in the reactor vessel by the looks of it, but adjacent to it. But that's another level of risk. I think if one of these nuclear plants, and I believe they have 6, goes up in flames, this is going to escalate things and may require a more direct intervention in that conflict. I think from here, what they really need to do is actually block off Russia's payment flows for energy that will leave them being able to only sell to India and China. That is the next escalation. And then they're going to have to play a waiting game and see if the economic pain that is imposed by the West on Russia is enough to bring Vladimir Putin to heel on regards to Russia. I'm 50-50 on that one.
Jeffrey Hulley, great to get your insights. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.